Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the plug. Power Living Under God. I am your host, Felicia Williams, and here at this place, we are here to give grace, give hope, and watch God transform lives one at a time. We welcome you back. Yes, we are here with an exciting yet challenging topic. We have conversations that will transform you and your people who are around you. We here expect God to do great things. So I'm excited today, and you will often on the plug hear me say, I got five on it. That five just represents those of you, if you are led to donate to the cause to inspire, to encourage, to educate people in our community who are homeless, who are hungry, and just to provide hope. We appreciate you and we thank you in advance for the love that you are showing to the plug. Get ready, y'all, to plug in. Get ready to plug in. I am grateful for um, the Black Man Unfiltered, the team who continuously to tirelessly help us and work behind the scene. Shout out to each and every one of them. Get ready. Get ready, y'all, to plug into today's topic. It is close to my heart, dear to my heart, because it's our senior saints, our seasoned saints, who we should not forget about. And today, our topic is parenting parents through hospice and disabilities. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And I have some special guests. Today is our special edition on the plug. Have some special guests, and I'm going to bring up our first special guest, Mr. Paul Bennett. He's going to share his experience um, with his journey with parenting parents. Good evening, Mr. Bennett.
Good evening. Good to be here. Hey, Freezy, what's going on, my brother? Good to see you.
What's going on, Mr. Bennett? How you doing?
Doing
Hello,
well, doing
Freezy.
well.
Welcome, welcome.
How you doing, Miss Williams?
I'm great. I'm glad you gentlemen have joined us here on the plug. I really do appreciate your time. Um, just want to get some insight, get some wisdom from the both of you, what your experiences have been on this journey, parenting parents. I think it's a very important topic, and especially coming from some of our brothers of color. I appreciate you. So, with no further ado, if you would just introduce yourselves and give us a little something, something about you.
I guess I could start first. Again, I'm Mr. Bennett. I am born and raised in New Jersey. However, I have deep Southern roots. Both of my parents are from Southwest Georgia, Donaldsonville, Bainbridge area. So all my kinfolk are from down there. And so I'm the youngest of six. Youngest of five, excuse me. And my next oldest is 6.5 years older than me. So I've been told oftentimes by my parents I was the one that they weren't expecting. And so, but when you look over the arc of life and whatnot, you realize God may had very well had a purpose for that. And so I can talk about that as we get more into the show. But yeah, certainly married. March will be I'll be celebrating 28 years of marriage. Three daughters. My youngest one, she graduates college in May, and that'll be my last one out. And I got one about to ship out this year, going to medical school. So very busy, lots of transitioning going on and whatnot. And yes, certainly I had to take care at some point, both my parents, both my dad and my father. My dad and my mom at certain points in time. And just lost my mom this past year, past July. So
Okay.
know the topic very well.
Thank you. Freezy?
Yeah. First off, thank y'all for having me. Shout out to Black Man on Filter for reaching out to me. And he knows I have no issues talking about this subject. I think this subject matter does call for a lot of awareness. because um, our elderly a lot of times are forgotten, after a certain point in time, because you know when people are more so in their youth, um, they're more consumed with building their own lives. So this is a very intricate topic, um, and I do have a lot of experience in it, just like Mr. Bennett. I'm originally from Central Florida, close to the Orlando area, and um, uh, I'm a twin. I'm an identical twin, and that's significant too because uh, and I'll explain that in the story. I did attend some college. My twin brother actually graduated, and he's a pharmacist. But I'm saying that for a reason because I'll tie that into what we're going to be talking about tonight too. And I do have a younger brother. I'm technically the middle child. Um, nobody cares about the middle child. It's
I have one of those freeze, and I think that's what she would say too.
yeah. But yeah. But I'm excited to talk about this. I'm always excited. I think Mr. Bennett he's heard me talk about this too. And Mr. Bennett, I want to give you my condolences for your mom going on to glory, man.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, man, that's tough. You already know I lost my mom in 2022. So, and I lost my dad a couple of years before that. So yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah, but we still got each other, Mr. Bennett. We still
That's
got
true.
each other.
That is true. You're part of the club.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, my condolences to both of you. And, Mr. Bennett alluded to, God has a plan and a purpose. We don't often understand it, but, like the old people used to say, better by and by, if we keep living. And that's what you gentlemen are yet doing. And so we're grateful to have you to share. And like you said, freeze it to awareness. Because our parents paved the way in some shape, form, or fashion for us. And so, just to dive in and just to so that we can plug in our listeners, Mr. Bennett, at what age did you start? Because it can be variations when you started actually caring for your parent.
As far as their full, sort of taking full-time care, both of them actually in probably late 2016, early 2017, they both got to a point where it was either difficult for them to live on their own, or it just got to a point where their current living situations were changing. And I was really out of my siblings. Like I said, I'm the youngest of five, but really for a variety of reasons, I was really the only one who had the capacity, that had the bandwidth to step in and give them what they needed in that given time. So so it was definitely I would say 2016, 2017 in that ballpark is where I became a lot more active. I had an older sibling who was doing some things, but it became apparent that that I need to step in.
Okay, and you were the youngest. Is
Yes.
that correct?
Yes.
Right. Because on one of the earlier shows, that was the comment that came up. The challenge was who should care? Should it be the youngest? Should
Yeah,
it be the oldest?
I remember you talking about that.
Yeah, and a lot
And
of time people like, no, not the youngest, thinking, quote unquote, the baby. And I heard Freezy say, you're the middle and nobody cares but for the middle, but the middle cares. So, uh, we appreciate that. So with that being said, Mr. Bennett, because I noticed you said both of them at the same time, kind of
Mhm.
were, you know, um,
Yeah, well, like I said, I had to get more involved with, again, my dad's affairs. He wasn't in a case where he was necessarily in a hospice situation, but again, his living arrangement had changed drastically, and I had to get him into another arrangement. And fortunately, in my area, I'm in the Northeast, I'm in New Jersey, as I said earlier, and senior housing is very difficult in this area, and certainly I didn't have the capacity for either of them to live with me. So finding him housing was first and foremost, and I basically turned over all stones, and I was able to get him an arrangement that was very close to me, and made sure his needs were taken care of in that time. So he was, out of the two, he was certainly the easier of the two to manage. My mom was a lot more complicated, going back several years, because she suffered with mental. You talk about disability.
Mm-hmm.
My mom, she was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia around age 30, so she lived with that most of her adult life. So that's another layer when you add mental health on top of physical disability. And that's really when I kind of step in. And it was a much more challenging getting her situation sorted out versus my dad's. He was a lot more cooperative in his situation. So, so different challenges on both, but I had to care for both at the same time. So I was just very fortunate, certainly with my job, with my employer at the time. Certainly they were very accommodating with allowing me to take time off to, take care of those situations, or get off when I needed, or work remotely, or, any situation that I needed. Certainly they were very accommodating to allow me to do what I need to do.
Okay. How Freezy, what about you at that juncture? Like, was it just your mom, or was it your mom and dad?
Oh no, my dad, my dad was in good health all up until when he died accidentally. My dad
Mm-hmm.
was in very good health. He was actually married to my mom for a long time, but I'm forced to say my dad was just one of those that he never stopped being a Rolling Stone. You know what I'm saying? And he just wasn't prepared to take on the responsibility that was needed for my mom, for my mother's care. My mother was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis since 1978, and so it had progressed periodically over time to where she couldn't walk anymore. She couldn't walk. She couldn't even pick up the phone. So she needed around the clock care, and so if she didn't have that type of adequate care, she would have been forced to be put in a facility. But yeah, my dad was cool. My dad was like, he was just healthy, but he just wasn't willing to look after his wife. So when I was in college, I was forced to leave college. I left college, and I came home, and I decided to assume care for my mother. So yeah, because I didn't want my mom to go into a nursing home or whatever. So
Okay.
uh,
So your
so
mom stayed with you, Freezy?
nah, I went to her house. You know what
Okay.
I'm saying? I went to her house because she had a house,
Mm-hmm.
and plus I was still young. You know what I'm saying? I was in college, so I just came and I started winging it. I didn't know what I was doing. I just cared for my mom. I just wanted to make sure my mom um lived longer than the doctors were expecting her to live. And she did. She lived 20 more years,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, yeah, my dad was cool. He I didn't have to assume care for my dad. He was living like a jitterbug. He was like, he was living life, but yeah. So that I had to leave college, man, and I came home and I took care of mom, and that's when the story started. There it is.
Okay. What's the most challenging thing with caring for a parent through hospice or disability? What's the most challenging thing? Either one of you.
Oh, go ahead, Mr. Bennett. Go ahead. We can flip flop.
Well, just to be technical, my mom, she wasn't in hospice care. She was in what they call palliative care.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we did have her in a facility again, and that was, I think, mostly necessary in part due to her mental illness, but then her physical health started to take a turn, and she had developed an infection in her toe that led to, and plus, she had high blood pressure, she had the diabetes and whatnot. So her body started to tear down, and they had done a surgery to amputate the toe, but unfortunately, just with her age and her conditions, it wasn't healing, and so She went through several surgeries, and they kept basically going up the leg. And it got to a point where probably the toughest part was when we had to make the decision, certainly as a family. I called the family together, and we had to make some decisions on, do we want to try to continue these surgeries that are getting more severe in hopes of trying to save her, to save her, or do we go to a palliative care where they still treated her, they treated her wounds, they made sure that she had round the clock attention, that was the main thing. I mean, her health was to a point where, she needed that 24-hour, which again, I wasn't able to provide. So again, we did have her in a facility, but the facility was literally in town, not even 10 minutes away. And so myself and even my sister, who also lives in town, we were able to, see her on a regular basis, talk to the doctors and everything. But really, I think it was that first family call where we basically made the decision that, we're not opting. She had 4 surgeries in the span of about a month. And, it got to a point where we had to make a decision that, we're not going to allow her to keep suffering the way that she was suffering. So the palliative care was introduced so that she would still be taken care of and get the nourishment and the care that she needed. And if she passes naturally, then so be it. But that was, I think that was the toughest part, getting everybody on the same page as far as, what those decisions are. And, again, I was fortunate in that since everyone at the time recognized that I was the primary caregiver, they trusted my judgment in terms of making that call. But I just did not, just constantly seeing her going, under and coming out of that, and just the suffering that she was going through, it just became unbearable after a time.
Yeah. So I heard you say it was like calling the family meeting, but everybody, it's safe to say everybody had a consensus because they had trusted you. Because I
Right.
think that was another concern. When people have a family meeting, it's not always
It's not right.
consensus.
Yeah.
Everybody ain't on the same page, even though everybody's seeing the same thing and everybody's witnessing it. And there may be one or the other who's, have closer encounters because they're there. But everybody, emotions are everywhere. Emotions are high, and
Right.
rightfully so.
Right. Well, I
Especially,
think certainly there was some trust. I think that was built over time because I think if there was some family dispute, it might have been on the outset as far as some of the decisions that were made early. But when they were able to see the sort of care that she was getting, the facility that she was staying in, because I checked out several, and some of these places, it's almost like you just go there to die. But this place, they really had their act together. They were very much involved. They were, kept her very active. She was very happy there. And once they saw the sort of care she was getting, she was like, okay, he's got it. He's got his hands on it. And so, certainly that made things a lot easier too, So I think trust is, I think, a big part of it. When you're able to earn that with your family, then they'd be like, okay, then we trust your judgment in that situation.
yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I will say that's also a good thing that at least your other family members was willing to have meetings and all that kind of stuff. It showed some kind of concern. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Uh, like on my behalf, my brothers, they had just completely checked out. They wasn't trying to talk about mom. They was living their life. If she got put in a nursing home, so be it. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want to say it's not because they didn't love her. It's just assuming the type of care and responsibility for somebody like that. It just requires a certain amount of maturity and patience. And for a long time, you said what it takes, right, Miss Felicia? Like for a long time, I was a little in the beginning. I was a little resentful with my family because I'm like, this your mother too.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? This ain't just my mama. This y'all mama too. You know what I'm saying? And I found myself saying that for a few years, but then I realized that everybody ain't me. Everybody is different, and everybody does not have the same mindset, right? And it was a very hard transition for me to tell myself, that doesn't mean that they don't love mom. It's just it was something in me that I wouldn't want somebody to forget, just neglect me like that. I wouldn't. If I was in that position, I've always been like that. I always try to put myself in somebody's shoes. So of course I'm gonna put myself in my mama's shoes. And so when I came home, it required a lot of patience. That's one thing I want to start with. Patience is a virtue. If I didn't know that before I assumed care of my mom, I mean, I got on my knees and prayed and cried plenty nights, asking God, why me? Why?
Mhm.
But I got over that. I manned up. But here's another thing, like uh and God bless Mr. Bennett's heart, because I can imagine that the mental aspect that's a whole nother arena. You know what I'm
Very much
saying?
so. Indeed.
Um, I think the challenging thing about me was looking at my mom physically the way I've never looked at my mom before, and having to do things with her body,
Mhm.
like bathing her naked and all. I think that was one of the hardest things in the beginning with me. I did not want to touch my mom like that. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I didn't want to explore my mom like that. I'm talking about everything, private part. Because when you wash a woman, you got to wash everything. You got to wash everywhere. And it was hard for me, you know what I'm saying? But over time I got used to it. Um and I think it was more hard for me because I was a man, because I was usually because when home care used to visit, especially in the beginning, well, they used to say it all throughout my care for mom, but every time a new nurse came to the door, they was very surprised. It was like, so where's the caregiver? I was like, it's me.
Mhm.
You? Because I found out, I didn't know this, but I found out that 9 times out of 10, men are not going to, take on that type of responsibility for a woman. I mean, for their mother, or sister or something. It's usually a female that
Mhm.
that that will take on that type of responsibility. So yeah, I understood why they used to look at me like that, because it is it is more of a hurdle to get over when when you're physically caring for your mother like that, and you have to actually clean things and see things that you never wanted to see on your mama. You don't want to see that stuff. So yeah, but yeah, I'll stop there. Yeah.
Yeah. I can certainly share his the that early frustration, the why me moments. Um, Initially, one being the youngest, but you again, it was through elimination. I had two of my sisters lived West Coast, so that was, so proximity was an issue. Then I had another sibling who just didn't have, as Freezy said, the capabilities, the patience, the capacity, and to take that on. And then the other had already gone through that with her husband's mom. Like
Mhm.
they went through that process with her mom, and then shortly after that, he passed on. So she had to basically take care of his mother and go through all of that, similar to what Freezy was talking about. Then have to deal with the death of her husband, and so she got to the point where it's like, I don't have anything to give.
Mhm.
Whatever I had to give, I kind of gave that, and I just kind of checked out. So, like I said, it just kind of came down to elimination, but you still had that why me moment. And I remember when it really became clear to me, I was actually in the barbershop. Shout out to my brothers in the barbershop. Because we would talk about everything, the head barber, he was a minister, and I was just sharing with them, what was about to go down, and those brothers just surrounded me. And they just prayed for me, and they just
Mhm.
laid hands and
That's
just
awesome.
It
anointed
is.
me, and that was that was really the transforming moment. And so the patience that I didn't think I had, I started to develop it. Sometimes patience is like a muscle. I'm a trainer, so patience is like a muscle. You got to train that too. Some people
Mhm.
just are blessed with it. Sometimes you got to earn it. So I think I might have been on the other end. It wasn't just I had the capacity. At least I didn't think I had it. but you just develop that over time.
Mm.
And this is a testament to, oftentimes we talk about men not having emotions. You're talking about caring for your mothers, and Freezy talking about those very private moments, but this shows emotions, and not even in those times, and even sharing when the brothers surrounded you, showing that brothers have heart. Um, just you don't demonstrate it like we do in
Mhm.
unopportune times, but I'm saying, just shout out to both of you in those spaces to care for your mom and your parents, for you, Mr. Bennett. But Freezy, I want to go back to when you started. You said you were in college.
Yeah. So
Like,
so that was like I came home in 2002 from college, and I just left. I left, and I had said, you know what, I'll just go back. I'll go back one day soon after I get my mom situated, and that turned into her lifelong care. I mean, so I never really went back to college. So, but my dad was still in the home, but I started assuming care while, even though he was in the home. And that did draw a wedge between me and my father and it drew resentment between me and my father because I'm like, bro, you the one married to her. I'm not married to her. This your wife. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, he didn't want it to stop, his life and all that. So it ended up kind of stopping mine. You know what I'm saying? And I
mhm,
really thought that was unfair, for a father to see that and not, I think he just was like, "Hey, if you don't want to put her in a nursing home, that's on you." So, but I just I felt like, hey, if my mother, if I could keep my mother home, I will. You know what I'm saying? So I did that, and yeah. So and my mom, mind you, my mom died in 2022. So from that point to 2022, I cared for my mom. Um and Also, my mom needed to be transported. My mom was a healthy woman. She wasn't no small woman. She was a healthy woman. She was like, at one point in time, my mom was almost 300 pounds. And so I had to lift my mom, um, put her in the wheelchair, when at the early stages when she could actually, when she had enough strength to actually straighten up her back and sit in the wheelchair for a little amount of time. Then I had to put her back in the bed. Uh, but we also had to leave the house before I even knew that you could sign up for transportation, medical transportation. I used to put her in my car and I used to lift her up, put her in the wheelchair out of the bed, lift her up out of the wheelchair, put her in the car, lift her out of the car, put her in the wheelchair, lift her out of roll her in the doctor's office, lift her out of the wheelchair, put her in the bed.
mhm,
It was a lot of lifting. And so this is what I want to say. The reason why I want to say that is because that's work. Let me tell you something, that's work. Okay. Especially, it would have been easier if, okay, like my mother was your size, Felicia, but my mom she was a big woman. And so, and here's another hard thing was my mom felt guilty.
mm,
And I used to have to reassure my mom, it's okay, mom. You know, I'm here. I'm here because I want to be here. But she used to cry all the time because she's like, oh my God, I'm stopping your life. I never
mm,
meant this for you. And she felt like her husband really, didn't care for her. It was just bad. And whenever I did kind of have conversations with my dad, I tried to have them in private without my mom hearing because I didn't want my mom to feel like I, didn't want to be there. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes people could get mixed messages. Like if my mom heard me telling my dad, man, what's wrong with you, man? This your wife,
mhm,
it's not that, I it's not that I minded caring for my mom. It's just that I was very disappointed in my dad. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't want my mom to hear those conversations because it would probably make her feel not wanted again, less wanted, and all that kind of stuff. So it was just a lot of intricate stuff that I had to watch out for, and I had to kind of tiptoe around. Um, so eventually, my dad ended up leaving the house and leaving because he was already talking to other women. So he eventually moved in with another woman that he was already talking to. And to be honest with you, that kind of made it a little better for me because it was like I didn't have to look at him no more. You know what I'm saying? Like this me. And I became the sole man of the house. You know, it was my auntie's idea. She was like, "Hey, you might need to become power of attorney." And so I ended up having to become power of attorney. I ended up having to oversee her bank account. Um, and then that's a whole nother issue.
It's like,
They
yeah.
don't care about the person, but they damn sure care about that money. What you doing? Why did you withdraw this today? Whatever. And so there were plenty moments where I was like, listen, I ain't got to be here. If y'all, if you worry about the money, listen, what come with my mother's bank account is my mama. So you can come in at any time and take over the care. Trust me. And needless to say, I wasn't doing anything untrustworthy with my mom's bank. You know what I'm saying? I had my own. I was working I was hustling to get my own money. I'm an audio engineer. I always had that skill, and I had a studio, and I developed a studio in the house to where I could charge. So I had clients that was coming in. I had set up a business inside the home on a separate part of the house. So I was making my own money. I didn't need my money. As a matter of fact, I was paying the bills with my money. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, but I did need to go to the bank to check on my mom's money because for one, my mom wanted me to go to the bank and check on her money to withdraw some money because my mama, she always wanted to maintain this sense of like she still was like she always wanted to maintain this sense that she was still like she was still
Independence.
had a source of independence, some type of independence, right? So my mom would have me do strange stuff, like go to the bank. She would be like, Fred, I need you to go to the bank and withdraw like $100 and bring it to me. And I'd be like, why? What for? And she'll be like, could you just do what I asked you to do? So I'll go get the $100 and I'll bring it to her. And then she'll be like, just put it in my purse just for emergency. I'm like, okay. Well, so she was just like, she was having me do stuff like that, right? But yeah, that's another thing that people don't talk about as far as like the financial part. Like and that makes you angrier too, because it just makes you feel like, what do these people really care about? I thought we were here for mom, not, what I'm saying, not the money and everything. I never asked to be my mother's power of attorney. I never asked to be over my mother's bank account, but it was necessary because I was my mother's primary caregiver. It was almost like I was my mother's spokesperson.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? So
it came with the responsibility. It came with,
yes,
all of those things come with whoever steps up to, have the capacity, have the poor to care for the parent.
yeah.
The money comes with it because it's not free to care for them, right?
Because she couldn't physically swipe her card. She couldn't physically, if I had to rush her to the hospital, she couldn't physically show her ID. She couldn't physically do nothing. She couldn't lift her arms really. You know what I'm saying? So that was kind of frustrating too. But yeah.
Yeah,
It definitely makes a difference. I mean, I was
yeah.
power of attorney for both of my parents, and it just made especially when you have to talk to certain entities, when you have to go down to the Social Security office, when you have to speak to doctors, when you have to you just want to make things happen. It's just good when you have that access and you can go in with your power of attorney and or that you get your name on the bank accounts so that you can move money where it needs to be in order to move. So it just makes your life easier when you have that kind of access. So yeah, so both power of attorneys for my parents, and except my dad, he was pretty easy. My mom, a little bit different because again, when you're dealing with someone who has an alternate reality, the conversation sometimes, because again, a lot of these acts, they have to be of their free will, at least as much as they know it. So especially with her paranoia, it could easily go sideways to say, oh, y'all trying to do this to me, y'all trying to do that to me and whatnot. So again, it has to be, anything that you did had to be presented in a certain way where she perceived it to be for her benefit. And so you had to learn how to talk in certain ways, how to, in order to get her cooperation. You can't just say just because you have mental illness. And for her, the hardest part was getting her into, I would say, the system, the mental health system. And that happened back in the mid 80s. And the only way to that she got in there, the only way they'll put her in there is if law enforcement had to get involved. So there was a situation where a violent act had occurred, and once she got taken in, they evaluated her and they said, okay, she's she has issues or whatnot. So then at that point, that was the first time she was institutionalized. And again, that made it easy to control, because you can't just say, you can have an intervention and say, Mom, I think we have mental problems. She's going to fight you tooting well. No, I'm the same one. Y'all the crazy ones. And so, and you can't just go to somebody and say, look, our mom is ill. You need to put her in. It doesn't happen. People still have agency. And so getting her into the system to where you can have at least a bit more control over her movements, and then working with her within that system still, it took a little, it takes a little bit more nuance. But it seems like in Freeze's case, like your mom was a lot more cooperative, even though she felt guilty about it. But again, she was a lot more cooperative about getting you to advocate on your behalf. My mom took a little bit more work. So that's a story in and of itself that we got to that point. But we ultimately we were able to get there.
Yeah, there's another point because of mental illness that's different. And then you talk about law enforcement. You talk about in the 80s, and you talk about currently, right now. That's a conversation to have because mental illness is on the horizon. And like you said, we have free will. Even in that scenario, you just can't make an adult, whether they're sane or not, um, get the help that they need. And so to
Mhm.
be a power of attorney, I like what you said, you have to know how to talk to mom. That's in relationship. You just can't say what you would say to somebody else because mom's cognitive ability wouldn't
Yeah,
allow.
it's like I say, it's a different reality. Like
Right.
1+1 isn't 2.
Mm-mm.
What may seem very logical isn't in that world. And so, that, again, that took some time to get through, and then working through, again, going back to Freeze's other point about patience, because you're just like at the end of your rope. It's like, don't you understand? And then you got to
Right.
remind yourself, no,
No.
she doesn't understand.
Mhm.
you know, and that's just been the and I think all my siblings at one point, they all kind of had that sort of moment where they realized it's like, yeah, mom's a different,
She's
because I
different.
think every one of them tried at some point in time to do that kind of intervention, and it was just shot down, and it just exacerbated issues. So the fact that we were able to come to that point where I can move on her behalf, and with everything going on, for some reason, out of all the siblings, she trusted me probably more than anybody else. And that trust, even though it was frustrating at times, because again, she would fight me, but I had enough in the account to do what I was able to do. But with the other ones, it was like, it was another issue.
Mr. Bennett, can I ask you a question? Did
Sure.
you learn a lot about mental health from caring for your mother, like medication or
Oh,
the
absolutely.
psychology of it and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff?
absolutely, absolutely. It's still a burgeoning area. I mean, we understand now, especially with schizophrenia and whatnot. We understand that it's chemical imbalances that develop in the brain, and again, it can happen anytime. Like it happened around late 20s to about 30, around the time I was born. And my parents, they actually split at that point. My dad had his own problems, and then she was developing her own. And so so we understand, but the thing is, it's still a unexplored area. They can Most of the drugs and medications, what they're intended to do is to mitigate symptoms, mitigate outbursts, but there's no cure for these things. You put them, or you try to frame a world for them in which is able to function, but it can unravel very quickly. And the one of the frustrating things in terms of growing up, even when she got into the system, they structured in such a way where you can sort of earn some freedoms. There's like an independent sort of living arrangement where you're still sort of supervised, but you can live independently. And she was such high functional that she can earn that capacity. But the problem was, once she started feeling herself a little bit, she's like, I don't need the meds. I'm good. And then she would slip back down. She'd have to go back into the institution and earn her way back. So it was this constant cycle of in and out of the institutional settings. And so, so that piece, so you had to come to a realization, because especially with my siblings, they were always saying, there's got to be a cure for this. There's got to be something, and why is she getting better and whatnot. And we all kind of had to come to that understanding. She's going to be with this for the rest of her life. The only thing we can do, again, we can manage it, but it's like a monster. It's like a Jekyll and Hyde sort of thing. It can erupt at any time. It can be triggered at any time. And you just have to manage it. So even with the drugs, it manages symptoms, But again, you give them too much, then they're like zombies. They just kind of walk around. If you ever been into like a mental institution, it's like everyone's walking around like living corpses.
Are you born with schizophrenia?
No, not to my knowledge. No. Like I said, my mom developed it at 30. A lot of people who I've met through the years, again, normal childhoods, normal adolescence, teenagers, even into adulthood. But then things start to happen. It could be, and again, they still don't know why these changes may occur. But it could be a combination. It could be health related. It could be environmental. It could be situational. But whatever it does, it tampers with the wiring, and you can just develop things. I mean, my one of the things that I'm envious about with my siblings is that they remember mom when she was at her best, when she was good. Her and my dad, they were kind of like the Underground Railroad for a lot of my kinfolk. They said all my kinfolk are from the South. They all moved up to New Jersey. They got jobs. My mom and my dad, they brought a big 2-family house. All the relatives came up to Jersey, lived with them until they got established, got jobs, got their own places. So they were really instrumental in helping both sides of the families to really elevate in the Northeast. And they remember the good times that they had, but then they saw when it started to turn and things aren't just quite right. And so by the time I came around, that's all I knew. So my mom has been in this condition since I can remember, but they remember a different time. And so a lot of times at family gatherings, they would talk about what it was like growing up, and it was good. Me, I only saw the bad. And so I have also a different perspective in terms of how I saw my mom for a lot of years versus theirs. So for them, it was almost like in the page, it's like, when's mom going to get better? Me, I never saw better. I just saw the Jekyll and Hyde for all my life. And that's another story also in terms of my personal journey, in terms of how I overcame a lot of that resentment. Because it seemed like with your mom, Freezy, you didn't have that kind of drama with her, personally like that, but I did. Right. So when it came to caring for her at the time that I did, I still realized I still hadn't dealt with my personal issues that I had with her. I wasn't gonna disobey God, and I was gonna certainly take care of my parents, but I had to do it a different way. Initially, I had to be very, like you said, I was almost like her business manager. You know what I mean? So power attorney, all that. Yeah, I'm her representative, but being her son was too personal. And so I had to literally, in my mind, I had to turn that off. I'm your lawyer, I'm your financier, I'm all those other titles. But if I really want to do this, I can't be your son. And that didn't get reconciled until very late. So it's a very different space. But again, just getting back to
That's
your
the
question.
psychological aspect of the
Yeah.
caregiver part, though.
Yeah. Yeah. But getting back to your question, I mean, they understand more. I mean, I think the drugs have improved over time. But again, as far as cures, they still don't. This is a universe up in here that they're still trying to unravel and unwind. If you look at the medical journals, especially back in the 70s and 80s, no one really knew that. Back in the day, it was like, oh, well, that's just your crazy uncle, so and so, whatever. Nobody really paid the attention to it. I think mental health has certainly gotten a lot of attention in the last decade, last 10, 15 years, which is a good thing and a positive thing. But yeah, it's still a lot of unexplored territory that they're still trying to unravel and see what they can do as far as really, like I said, really curing people. And that's the thing you got to go. There is no, it's not like a physical injury that'll just heal. There's, this is very difficult. This is a lot different thing to deal with.
Yeah, and there's so many different ways to go in this conversation about parents and with you, gentlemen, sharing with us because Mr. Bennett, and even with Freezer being in college, and then you just going back saying when you were born, your mom already had a mental illness. Just being a former educator, young people, we don't talk about it enough. Sometimes the behaviors, because we don't know the dynamics of the home. I knew a young African American boy, third grade. Mom was schizophrenic, diagnosed and bipolar, and he was literally taking care of his mom at 8. But to be able to assist her and him, it was so many different barriers because of being as a community not being fully aware of what that looks like, and just assuming. So I'm interested to know, even Bennett, Mr. Bennett, like your relationship as a boy going, your school age years. And then that's why I said to Freezy, your college years, you sacrificed a lot, and you talked about how, you stopped going to school. Do you have any regrets? And what was Mr. Bennett's life like growing up as a boy, in school? But my mom hasn't, like you say, outbursts, did that affect you in school with your behaviors, college versus, elementary, middle school, And I know it's a lot. It's because but y'all have so.
Yeah.
I looked at the time and said, "Oh, this is just too much." I got so many questions, but y'all are, and then I done got real intrigued with your stories, and grateful that God chose you. Yeah, I mean, I know it don't say, when we think about chosen, like Freezy said, "I ain't asked for this." It ain't like you going, "Oh, I want it. I want that."
Right.
No.
Send me. No, don't send me.
Right. This ain't the thing like to me. It's like, no, if I knew what I knew, I would have said, "Now you can choose this brother, not me."
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was very confused in the beginning when I left school and I came home. It was a lot of why me, why me, why me, and later on, a while after, my auntie kind of made me understand. She was like, I know you had to leave school and all that kind of stuff, but to be honest with you, it just seems like God knew that you were the one for this job. Like he knew that your brothers couldn't do it. He knew that I couldn't do it because, she lived in a whole nother location and she has a whole husband and family and everything, right? And it was like he was it. But when I really thought about it, I was like, she's right, because it was so it was so strategic the way God put me in that position to take care of my mom, right? And for me to be, because God knows what type of person I am. I'm a very good-hearted person, and like I said, I always try to put myself in other people's shoes. I try to, I try to be very respectful and all that kind of stuff. And so after a while, I just started accepting that God chose me for this. But it is very hard to see other people going to work, living out their lives. You might have a career. Um, not only that, romance, just the romance part of it. People, having a romance life and they can go as they please. They got girlfriends, boyfriends. Some people eventually got married, that type of stuff. And that was very difficult and very challenging because, you know, if I go to the grocery store, let's say when my mother was strong enough in the beginning, I could put her in the car, we could go to Walmart or something. I used to see people, just people that I knew, they just living their life. And they're not even thinking about you like that, but you can, if you're not careful, you can hyper focus on them and hyper focus on what you might be missing. That's the life of a caregiver. You always think about, what you're missing out on. You're being deprived of this and that. It's unfair and everything. And then you kind of sort of, if you do it for long enough, you kind of sort of grow into this maturity and understand that, hey, the person that you're caring for, imagine how they feel. Imagine how, so I started to stop feeling sorry for myself, and I really started to hone in and focus on my mom and say, it's like God came to me and said, imagine how she feels. She, you know, she can't she can't do anything. So I just thought, and then I'm gonna tell you another thing. I always tell this story. Another thing was, when you asked me, did I have any regrets? I didn't finish school. It used to become a norm when I used to walk in the grocery store, the bank, wherever we was, me, and somebody seen me. Let's just say somebody seen me from my mother's church, like a older person, or it don't matter who it was, because mind you, remember, me and my twin were identical. Me and my brother were identical twins. And so they would see me and say, which one are you? And they will always say the same thing. They would say, which one are you? They would say, are you the pharmacist, or are you the other one? And every time they call me the other one, it just used to like infuriate me on the inside. But I always kept it respectful. I tried to keep a smile and everything. But at one point in time, I just wanted to say, why y'all keep calling me the other one? I got a name. But it was just almost like he was getting all the accolade. He was getting all of the, of the acknowledgement because he finished school. He was a pharmacist, and I was just the other one.
Yeah,
And I just couldn't.
You were the other pharmacist. You was just without the, the pharmacist without the degree, but you was a pharmacist.
Well, yeah, but they was just, it seems like they knew one of us was taking care of mom, but it just didn't, that job doesn't come with a lot of respect. It doesn't come unless you're in the healthcare field, like,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? If they understand the dynamic of what you're doing, okay, then some type of understanding will take place. But just normal everyday people, man, they don't care about. You don't get no accolades for being a caregiver. It's almost like a thankless job. I'm telling you. And so that was challenging too. So yes, to answer your question, I know my answer was long-winded, but in the beginning, I did kind of regret, I was like, dang, I used to have dreams. I could get deep with this, Felicia. Like, I used to have dreams that I was still in school.
Mm.
I used to have this dream that I was still in school, but then when I wake up, I realize that I'm a dropout. You know what I'm saying? I'm a dropout. But then I would have to get up, go fix my mom some some breakfast, some lunch. You know what I'm saying? And feed her. And it was just like a reminder every day. Yeah, this is what you are. This is who you are. You know.
Well, I
And
want
then
to
here,
I don't mean to interrupt, but I do.
yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt
No,
because
go. You the host. You can interrupt
as
me
listen,
anytime.
as a former educator, I want to just submit this to you. You say, I woke up and say I'm a dropout. Going forward, just I dropped out, and I dropped out to
Mhm.
care for my mama. I dropped out to care for this treasure that God gave me that you know birthed me. There's a way to look at it because young people need to know, and it's case by case. They ain't like you were going to school and then all of a sudden you like, you know what? This ain't for me. And just dropped out. Now that's a
Mhm.
dropout. Well, depending on the case though, but for you, it's I dropped out because that's what I want to
And
submit.
you know what?
I
I
couldn't move no further without I dropped out because what you've done for those of us who you got we got degrees and letters behind the name and your story and the patience. Let's talk about that. Patience being a virtue. People have graduated, got degrees, and have not had the experiences that you gentlemen have had to be caregivers. And that, yes, is challenging and the suffering and all the things that come with it. But also that you gentlemen did, you can't help to know that it created something in you to make you who you are today, to be better men for whoever, whether it's community, wife, children, another brother, young brothers, you know. So I just wanted to stop and say that to the both of you. Like you said, yeah, I know this is deep. This is a whole extension for the plug. We need to plug into some more, all the different areas. But what you gentlemen have done, and I can see in the chats, people were like, that's heroic, God is good. Somebody else was saying my parent had cancer. What encouragement, as we're at the end, what encouragement would you give someone in the same shoes or similar shoes that you guys have walked in? You've already walked a mile in those shoes. What encouragement would you give someone on our way out at this time?
Wow. Um. Wow. Well, steal from your show, I think you need to be plugged in. I mean, you need. I think for me, it was the spiritual connection. Certainly developing my personal faith, my personal walk with God, having those conversations, sometimes difficult conversations with God. Um, Life experience going through that. Um, Having a good support network from the home. My wife now, again, like I said, I'll be married almost 28 years. My wife, um, she just added a dimension to my life that allowed me to grow in this role. She never got jealous. That I remember there's one time, especially when, like I said, my mom and dad, they both kind of came into the picture at the same time, and we had young girls at the time. And I remember having a conversation with my wife, and I just told her, look, I need you to take care of things. I can't be at parent-teacher meetings. I can't be in certain places. I got to put, I got to put the task in to get these things done, to square these things in a very short fashion. And she never held back from just saying, look, you need to do what you need to do. And so she's always been a support network to me in that fashion, allowing me to grow into this role. And she never got jealous or envious that I wasn't around for certain things. She knew that, that I was, chosen to take care of business. So again, find a support, spiritual support, whether it be from your family, your extended family, if you have a spouse, if you have friends, a community. Again, opportunities like this. I mean, I gained so much respect for Freezy when he had a show talked about his story that I just related to. So again, this very platform that you have, continue to promote this and let people know that no, you're not the only one, that you're not alone in this effort. And just for me, I can say that again, God is certainly opened up the doors. I mean, I can only take so much credit for this, honestly. That God has been there in ways to allow me to grow into this, you know. So I give him the majority of the credit in this, but I think you're spiritual. I mean, you're what's going on in here internally. If you need to take that time for yourself, because again, you can lose yourself in these things. Taking that time to take care of your mental health, I think that's also very important. Again, finding people to step in, and also with your other siblings, because again, we talked about that earlier. I mean, I think the rule of 80-20 always applies, right? 20% of people do 80% of the work. It happens in families, it happens in business, it happens everywhere. That rule is just there. Learn how to take whatever that person is able to give, and don't judge them for it. It's like, look, if you can only do this with mom, I mean, can you just go there and just paint her nails for the day? I don't need you to do anything else. Because like I said, I wasn't in a position to do a lot of this emotional support. Like I said, I was just business, because that's the only area that I can operate in. But can you guys do the personal stuff? Can you guys go over for the birthdays and spend time with mom and say, hey, mom, and, all can y'all do that? I'll take care of everything else. Mm-hmm. I just need you to do that. So again, manage your expectations of those who you think need to be doing things. But me, I've always been one to say, can you do these, and I'll take care of that. I can work with that. It doesn't have to be equal. There's 5 of us, so it's not 20% across the board. Hey, if you can give 2%, I'll take your 2%. And then lastly, I would say, learn to forgive. And again, people understand there's a huge difference between forgiveness and reconciliation. Reconciliation is a 2-person job. Forgiveness is a 1-person job. That's you. Mm-hmm. Let go of the stuff. And that just, again, allows you to go out and do and be who you need to be. It doesn't mean that you're good with everybody and that we cool again and whatnot, but let go of your expectations.
That's good.
Yeah.
And just, this is what it is. And this is what God had to show me. Mm-hmm. You're it. Mm-hmm. This is what it is. Mm-hmm. I need you to step up. And again, I go back to when those brothers surrounded me. Mm-hmm. It was almost like they were saying, yeah, they were just confirming what I was being told. I'm getting emotional here, but
yeah, that's okay, because they plugged into you.
Legion.
Yeah, that's right. They plugged into you, and the world needs, like you said, this platform, the world needs to know. Yeah. I said that earlier. Yeah, men cry, men take care of their parents, men take care of their mothers, men bathe their mothers, wipe their mothers, careful. Men do that. Real men, God-fearing men, because somewhere down the road we got it twisted. And shout out to Miss Bennett for being the helpmate God called her to be, because real women do just that. And that don't mean none of us are, because we're not perfect, but guess what? Yes, we can. That support system, the village still lives. It just looks different. We're creators. We can create the village we want. We just have to open up our mouths and speak, like you guys have come on the show today. Plug in, and it's okay to be emotional. God gave us these emotions. It's just that they're not driving. Like doing your scenario, doing your testimony, Mr. Bennett, your emotions, you didn't give them permission to drive during the time you needed to be the businessman for your mama. Mm-hmm. It's a time and a place for all things. And like Freezy, it's the same. I mean, you gentlemen have done, I know the chat, but I mean, just for me personally, I'm grateful that you were even referred. I mean, just people speak highly of you, especially Black Man Unfiltered. Y'all are family. I'm grateful, because these are the things that our community needs to talk about. We talk about a whole lot of stuff. Yeah, and that's
Mhm.
good. That's cool. It's a time and a place for it all. But this right here, because it's important for us to care for those who care for us, even when they didn't have the capacity to do it, but still did it in some shape, form, or fashion.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
and
shout out both
if
of
I could
you.
if I could close out too, I want to
Please
say,
do, Freezy.
uh, Mr. Bennett, I know that you were a caregiver, but hearing your story in detail, bro, man, I salute you. You know,
Thank
because I
you.
know what you were faced with. It was a totally different monster than what I was faced with, and I don't mean monsters in a bad way. I'm just
Nah,
saying like,
it was. I'm,
yeah,
you can use monster because that's that on the real. That's what it was.
yeah,
So yeah, all of that. But it just makes the overcoming just that much better,
yeah,
and being able to share in this space that much more powerful. So yeah, it was about the overcoming, but yeah, but same, like I said, same to you. I mean, the care that you gave your mom, and it's like, and every person has different capacities that we operate in, and that's it just again confirms to me that, again, going back to my faith again, just God just knows how to put people, or to choose the right ones to be in those positions. And again, that's why I respect you so much.
But bro, I respect you too. And here's the thing, the way I lost my mom, I know Mr. Bennett heard this before, but the way I lost her 20 years later was, I just I fed her I fed her earlier that day. And we had, actually, that was one of the days. It was a good day for her. She had a little more strength. She was talking. I felt like it was gonna be a good day. And I told mom, hey, I'm gonna go get me something to eat. And I went and got me something to eat. This time I chose to actually go a couple of blocks and get me a sandwich. And by the time I got my sandwich and I came back and I called my mother's name, I walked in the room, her eyes were still. She was looking at the ceiling, and I kept calling her name, and I realized my mom had drifted away. And I tried to do CPR. I tried to do CPR on my mom. It was a bloody scene. It was just bad. I called paramedics. But I'm saying all that, and I lost my mom. I lost my mom. But I'm saying all that to say that when you're faced with something like that, that's not something that the average everyday person is going to be faced with, especially with your loved one. And if I could leave anything with anybody, I would kind of echo Mr. Bennett as far as like, it's a must, whether you're in that type of situation or not. I don't care what situation you're faced with. It's a must to strengthen your faith every day, to make sure you make a concerted effort to strengthen your faith. And I'm not saying that in a cliche type of manner, because there were many nights that I could have lost my mind.
Mhm,
I suffered severe anxiety and depression. And also what I don't talk about is, from caring for my mother, which I found out caregivers, especially the type of extreme care that I was given, you could fall into an extreme case of being obsessive compulsive disorder, or OCD. So,
okay.
because I went into a type of vortex where I was with my mom, where I was like, I just wanted to make sure everything was right. Everything was perfect, because I didn't want to lose my mom. I used to have dreams that my mom was dead, and then I would wake up and in the middle of the night and walk in the room just to see if her stomach was going up and down. Okay, she's breathing, and okay, I can
Mm,
go. So that's the type of trauma that I was going through. I didn't think it was trauma then, but now I know it was. And
mhm,
so, just to make it through all of that, you need God. Anybody that's an atheist out there, my heart goes out to you. I don't know how, I don't know how I could have made it if I was atheist, but I'm just saying, God is real. And when Mr. Bennett said what he said about stop having expectations, at that very moment, I was thinking that. I
mhm.
was like, listen, God works more off of expectations than,
Mm,
the unexpected than the expected.
right.
God, like, what we expect is not what God expects.
Mm,
You understand what I'm saying? So we're going to experience more unexpectations than expectations. and you just got to be ready for it. And how you get ready for it and how you tune yourself for it is just walking by faith and not by sight. A
Yeah.
lot of times when you walk by sight, you're walking expecting stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
when you walk by faith, you're just ready for whatever God puts in your path. And I think that, to me, that's a truly strong person. And I just want to close it out with that.
Well, listen, both of you, you set it up to close it out with to do only one thing, because the plug is about power, living under God. There is a power higher than us. And what we gonna do? We're gonna pray out, because I'm gonna pray for you, brothers. I'm gonna pray that God continues to place his hand upon you. And I'm gonna pray that there's somebody that heard something that will help them, bring them hope, because there is power, not in ourselves, but in our weakness. God's power is made strong. So if you would take this time, we're going to pray. Thank you for all of you who have come on. Thank you for Black Man Unfiltered, all of our family, because we're family here. But I just feel the need to do just what I need the people to know. Yes, we chop it up. We talk about everything because we can. But what you need to know is, when it come down to it, the brothers and the sisters on BMU, we are about that life, because we know we can't do nothing without God. So, Lord, we come right now in the name of Jesus, thanking you, God, for this opportunity to be on this platform to bring you glory from our stories. We thank you for Mr. Bennett, his wife, and his children, and his family. We thank you for Freezy, God, and his aunt, and all those who played a part. But we just thank you for these gentlemen who you knew while they were in their mom's womb what the plans you had for them. They didn't know, but you did. God, we thank you that we are able to hear the stories, because the word of God says we're overcome by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of our testimony. So, God, we pray that this testimony helps somebody and brings us hope to know that we need to care for our parents and do what they've done graciously and with a sacrifice. God, we thank you for the sacrifices that these men had given to their parents. But God, would you bless them bountifully as you've done thus this far? Continue to do the same. Be with them in their emotional states, God. Heal any wounds. Do that for us all, God. We can do nothing without you. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Now that's
Amen.
plug.
Amen.
Power living under God. I love you both. Thank you
Appreciate you. Thank you so much for having us.
showing
Thank
up.
you.
And I look forward to seeing y'all again. So
Yes,
again,
this was definitely this is very this was a blessing. Certainly love to come back in a future show. Just hit me up anytime. Let BMU hit me up anytime, and I'm there for you.
Same here. Same here.
All right. Appreciate you, brothers.
You guys take care.
All
God
right,
bless.
bye.
Yep.
All right. See y'all next time. We out. We'll be here next Sunday, 5:00. Listen, please, you can email me at gmail.com. You got some topics you think we need to talk about. We just are grateful that we're having these heartfelt conversations, not just a conversation, but a conversation that we can apply to our lives to let us know there is hope. Yes, it is. There is hope. So we want you to join us here again next Sunday at 5 Live. And don't forget, if you are led to do so, donate 5. That's the grace, because God has given us grace. I'm so excited, and I'm excited at what God is doing. Thank you all for supporting us, and we'll see you next Sunday. Stay plugged in to the power living under God.